Well, everyone, we have done it now, haven't we? So this is the fourth series in my lives. Started last July with series 1 with much hesitation. But I've now switched microphones, switched platforms. Hopefully everything is going to work. And this is an easier way for people to connect because they can just go to the YouTube channel and join us. So per usual, going to give it a few seconds, and then we are going to get started with today's live. But again, we will be on YouTube for this whole series. They are all scheduled. I have them in a playlist for you. So if you miss one, you can come back to the playlist and find out what you missed and go from there. So like I said, I've changed offices. I'm in a new apartment with a new office. I've got new equipment, new lighting. We've got all kinds of things going on today. But for my friends out there that always remind me, I did remember my lipstick. So not to be too trivial. All right, let's get started with today's topic. Are you an agile leader? Well, first of all, what is an agile leader? How do you even know if you're an agile leader if you don't know what that means? So, as everyone is really getting tired of hearing me say, let's go back to the dictionary definition of agile or agility. You can look up whichever word you want, and let's take a look at that. Let's get rid of the uppercase. The uppercase A in agile was about marketing and branding, so we can make money off of it. The lowercase a in agile is what we really want to focus on. And this is critical. Being flexible, adaptable, and able to make change. That's the definition of agile. So let's take that a little bit deeper and talk about what makes an agile leader. Well, let's go back. Flexible, adaptable, able to make change. If you're already stuck at that and you're like, oh, I hate change, I can't do this, you're going to struggle with being agile. That's just because they're polar opposites. It's kind of like the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, which we're going to talk about in a later episode. If you're stuck at, I don't like change, I don't want to make change, and I'm not going to make change, probably not the episode for you. But if you are able to make change, it's okay if it's uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. If it wasn't, we'd just be changing things all the time, right? But if you recognize, yep, it's difficult for me, but I know we have to do it because it's in our best interest to make the changes that are going to move the organization forward, then you're ready for the rest of this conversation. Are you an agile leader? So what makes an agile leader? Well, first of all, understanding what agility means and what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean people can run right over you because you'll just let them do whatever they want. That is not what it means. It means you're willing to make change for the good of the organization. And you're willing to face it head on. It may be miserable and uncomfortable and you may not be happy about it, but you know that it has to be done and you're willing to face it head on. You're also decisive. You don't have to have all the answers. In fact, I encourage you to be really transparent and let people know when you don't have the answers and when you don't know what to do, because that is also a characteristic of an agile leader. So you need to be decisive in the fact that you're making decisions about your business. You can't be wishy-washy. You can't be the limp spaghetti noodle. You have to be decisive, but you do not have to have all of the answers. You can be, show a bit of humility, a bit of vulnerability, because that's all part of being a human being. And those are all characteristics of a great leader. I don't think any of us, if we think about who we think great leaders are, have a list of people who have egos the size of Mount Rushmore and the Taj Mahal. Those aren't great leaders. So humility and vulnerability is part of that. But at the same time, you have to own your decisions. You're accountable for what happens. Agile leaders are strong leaders in the world. They're accountable. They don't throw people under the bus. And that's a really easy way to spot a leader. If you have somebody who's always looking for the person they can blame when something goes wrong, that is not the sign of a good leader. People ask me all the time, what makes a good leader? Or what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And one of the differences is that ability to take responsibility and be accountable no matter what, especially in the face of the customer. That doesn't mean you don't have conversations with your teams about, okay, guys, what just happened there and how are we going to avoid that in the future? That doesn't mean that, things go unchecked. But in the face of the organization, you take responsibility and accountability for what happens. For people who are weaker leaders, sometimes that will manifest itself as needing to micromanage. Because if you're going to have to be responsible and accountable, then you have to control the narrative. You have to control the situation. That's wrong. You don't want to be micromanaging. You don't want to control the narrative in the situation. You need to make the decisions at the strategic level about what needs to be done, but the organization needs to rally around you and help make those changes. And you have to foster, as an agile leader, that transparency. You need to be clear on what you're saying, but you also need to encourage everyone to be a leader. And everyone to bring the best of themselves and the ideas and the innovation and the creativity to the organization. Because the more you invest in people as a leader, the more they will in turn invest in the organization. If you don't invest in the people, why should they bother? Let's just punch a time clock, collect a paycheck, and go home. There's no need, if I'm an employee, to invest my energy and the best of myself in an organization that doesn't put people first. So one of the things I love about modern agile is at the top of the wheel is make people awesome. And that's what a true agile leader does, is they make people awesome. They foster that environment where people can really shine and excel because they've been clear and strategic about the mission. They've been clear about the values. They've been decisive when it is called for, and they have been vulnerable and transparent when it is called for. And by doing all of that, you are demonstrating to people how you want them to be in return. So you're putting yourself out there as an example of what you want to see in the organization. An agile leader is also always looking forward, not looking back. Yes, we need to take stock of what happened and what worked and what didn't work. The old mantra of fail fast. I like to say learn faster. Instead of failing fast, learn faster. And we're going to talk about failure in one of our upcoming episodes as well. And we're going to talk about what failure looks like in your organization, but don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon on that. So you're constantly modeling the behavior. You are there for people as a resource, but you're not always giving them answers, because that goes back to the micromanaging part. So you're putting out there, what is the strategic vision of the company? What are the values? What do we believe in as a whole? And then you're creating an environment where you're a resource. And I like to say we lead from the front. Well, that's because we're leading by example, but we are also there when people need us. One of my teams some time ago would say, oh, Indra has a story for everything. Well, I've been around a minute, so I have a lot of stories. But the point of my stories is always as an example and to give people a view of things so that they can see a way forward without me saying, well, go look here and type in this and then do this and follow it by that. People don't learn by that kind of example. They need to figure out the way forward on their own so they take ownership of what they're doing. So I just covered a bazillion trillion points all at one time. But remember, go back to the word agile with the lowercase a, being flexible, adaptable, and able to make change. And then as a leader, start applying some of these principles. Be clear, transparent, vulnerable when necessary, be a resource, encourage self-organizing, encourage innovation and creativity. Put yourself out there, but make the decisions when they need to be made. Own your actions and encourage everyone else to own their actions so nobody is going under the bus. We are collectively falling down and collectively getting back up again. And if you want a story for that one, read my blog about the bowling alley, because I talk about how a team has arrived at success by how they fail. And in the upcoming episodes in this series, because can you believe it? We're almost out of time. We're going to talk about growth mindset, being an agile mindset. We're going to talk about failure and how you identify what failure looks like in your organization and what you do to change how it looks if you don't like it. We're going to talk about psychological safety. We're going to talk about culture and teams. So as you can see, Series 4 is a continuation of Series 3, which was about leadership. All of this is on the YouTube channel, and we'll be doing this every week, Tuesday at 3:30 Central European for the next 6 weeks. If you have any comments or you would like me to talk about something specific during an episode, please feel free to reach out and message me on any of the channels and share that with us. But in the meantime, please check out our learning pages. We do have several group coaching programs coming up on these very topics, because why would I do lives about unrelated topics? And as always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And please, if you have any questions or you're not sure what I was talking about and need some help, I do 4 free consultations each week. So please sign up for a consultation and let's talk about your journey to becoming an agile leader. So until next week, everyone, thank you. I love that you follow us and join us, and I will see you next week back here to talk about the growth mindset. Bye, everybody.